I want to invite up the stage William. He will talk about the token economics and especially sustainable token economics, right?
Exactly.
Thanks a lot, William. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Roland, and thanks for inviting me for the second time to come here. How many of you were at SteemFest in Amsterdam last year and heard me speak? That's great. How many of you have a copy of my book? Good number. It's available in 9 languages now, so including Portuguese. So some of you know me as an author, some of you know me as an investor. I've been investing in the blockchain space for 4 years now, before ICOs were even in fashion. And as Roland said, I run the Token Summit. I also have my own index called WMX, which is a fund index with a basket of cryptocurrencies. But most importantly, I'm also a big fan of Steem and Steemit. And not only am I a big fan, which is well known, I've also been an advisor to them, to Ned and to the team from day one, even before advisors were in fashion like they are today. So the topic of my talk today to you is about designing the right economics for tokens. And why is this important? Because this year is different than last year. Last year it was a bit simpler. We only had Steemit as the platform, and all you had to do was just go there and have some activity, and then you would gain some steam. But this year we have the smart media tokens, which is a new venue, and it's becoming more important to understand how to design tokens properly, because some of you may be thinking about smart token applications. So to start with, let's try to give a definition of what a token is. Obviously, we take it for granted. We know Steem is a token, but one way to really think about a token is just really a cryptocurrency with a purpose, with a specific purpose. But if you want to elongate that definition a little bit more, it's really something that could be applied to anything. It's a unit of value because there is value. Wherever there is a token, there is value that an organization creates to self-govern its business model. So the term business model is very important. And it empowers the users to interact with its products or services while facilitating the distribution and sharing of the rewards equally and to the benefits to all stakeholders. And that is really what Steemit is doing. And it's important to keep in mind the real principles of tokens, definitions, when you try to design your token, because I'm seeing a lot of them right now that are not so pure, and we'll get into that later on in my presentation. So what is tokenomics? It's a term I coined a few months ago, and now it's being used by others, which is good because we need to study this field. It's really about 3 different things. One is how you design your token role. What does the token do? The functionality of the token is very important. Number 2 is how you distribute your tokens. Who do you give them to? How many do you keep? And what do you do with them? And then thirdly, how you govern the monetary policy behind the tokens, because it's really about governance. It's really about money that starts to appreciate. So that is really how to frame the topic of tokenomics. And to give you a context, last year I talked about the circular economy and the fact that there's a new equation between value and work. We do some work, we generate value, and then we earn some tokens, which we can then spend into other services that are available in the marketplace. And it's really the same thing that Steemit is doing right now. But this topic of circular economy is something that is very important because that is really the reason why we have tokens. Tokens are just an enabler. They are an enabler to creating private economies. The token itself is not the killer app. The last few months, there's been a lot of activities around tokens and ICOs. It is not the objective to have a token. You have to think about what is the token enabling. And if there's no value, if there's no economic creation of some sort, then there is no sustainability. And you may be kidding yourself about having success. The way to design tokens, really, you have to frame what the token does in terms of its role, its feature, and its purpose. I've been writing about this a lot, and I have a few blog posts on it. And you can kind of go through the list and say, like, does it do this, does it do that? Just focus on the role of the token. And there's different ways to design the token. One way to sum it up is it a right? Or is it an ownership? Or is it a service? Is it a toll? Is it a function that helps users to come in? Is it an earnings of some sort? Are you sharing the benefits with everybody? So there's many different ways today to create functionality for a token. And depending on how you create the functionality for the token, it is going to be classified in a different way by the authorities, by the financial compliance authorities. Another way to think about it is whether is it a utility or is it a security? So we all know that Steam is a utility. Why? Why is Steam a utility? Because you are using it in the operations of the site. But more importantly, is because it is a native token. It means that the minute that Steemit became live, the token was live at the same time. That is a very important requirement, which I don't see a lot of. Many of the projects today sell the token before it's operational. And then you have the speculators that start to speculate on it. And then we can wait a year or two, and we're not sure whether they will deliver. And everybody wants to do the same thing as Steemit, or everybody wants to do the same thing as Ethereum, because Ethereum was a very good example of a very successful ICO. But people forget that if you bought into Ethereum, into their ICO in 2014, for 1 year, you could not do anything with that token because the network was not operational. So you had to wait for a full year. And it was only when the network became operational that they allowed you to start to trade that token. Steemit has the luxury that the token was available on the same day as the platform, as the services. And I encourage you to do that if you are trying to create a new token for your new business. There's different types of work. I call them the work tokens because the genesis of this is really, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first token, first currency that miners took the reward for. And what do miners do? They do computational work. So that was really the genesis of the word work for earning tokens. So before it was computational work, but now with Steemit and other platforms, the work is more human. They call it brain work, but it's really, it could be active work, it could be us liking something or voting for something, commenting on something, or writing a program if it's a bounty. Or it could be passive work, two types of work. Passive work could be just being there and sharing our data. There's going to be a lot of that going on. Sharing data about ourselves, maybe our health data, or maybe our habits, where we have been, where we are going. All of that could be useful, and it could be aggregated by some businesses, and they give you a token in return, and you can spend that token for another service. That is really the future direction of tokens. There has to be some work that has to be done for value to be sustainable. But now it gets tricky. It's not all what you see. So what is this here? Lisbon. No, it's not Lisbon. This is not Lisbon. I will challenge you. This is an image of Lisbon. Lisbon is out there. So don't confuse the reality with the image. And I'm using this example because the history of this is the French surrealistic writer that came up with this saying. It's part of a thing called the treachery of images. And the saying is like, ceci n'est pas une pipe, means this is not a pipe. And he wanted to make the point that this is not a pipe, this is the image of a pipe. And I'm using this analogy because when you have a token, you have to be careful. Having the token on its own does not mean that that's it. Carte blanche, you can do whatever you want, and you're free. You've raised money, and now the token is the answer to everything. A token is not a carrot. in the same way that the previous picture was not a pipe, it was an image of a pipe. So a lot of companies I see, they use the token as a carrot, as an incentive. They say, okay, we're going to reserve a bunch of tokens for users, and we're going to give them to them so they can just be incentivized. But it's not enough to incentivize users with just a discount. It's like giving a discount or a coupon for a drink, and you go into a bar. It might get you in to get the first drink, but maybe you're not going to like it there, and you may not stay. So if the environment is not good, if there's nothing else to make you stay, to make you consume more drinks, to make you meet more people, then you will leave. And whoever gave you that carrot, whoever gave you that discount, is going to be losing. So I'm saying this because it's important. Now we have to see how the token is going to fit into the market that you are designing. In the startup world, we have something called product to market fit. It's very important. It is something that not all companies get to right away. You have to iterate towards getting the product to market fit, because at the beginning it's just a hypothesis. You think that the product is going to do this, and you go and prove it in the market. In the same way, this is going to happen with tokens. You think that the token is going to do this and this and that, but you have to go and prove it. You have to go and get users, and this is how you prove it. With Steemit, we have the luxury that it's already proven, and it's working. So again, I'm going to use Steemit as an analogy here for something that is working. And to do that, again, taking from the traditional way to develop a value proposition, now you have to have a token value proposition, which is to think about, like, for whom? For whom is this? For whom will the token be used? Who is going to use it? What kind of person, what kind of user is that? The profile. And how? For what benefit? There has to be a benefit. There has to be a result. There has to be a valuable transactional activity. If you start to answer these questions, put your token to the test when you design your token. And the asset test is really starts very basically. Do you really need a blockchain as a starting point? I am seeing examples where they are just using and slapping a token just because they are able to raise money. And they use the token as a fundraising mechanism. But when I get emails from companies that are doing this, asking me if I want to invest or if I want to be an advisor, I really ask them, the first question is like, why? Why do you need the blockchain? Can you explain it to me? And if they can explain it succinctly and credibly, then we can talk. You have to really ask yourself, why do you need a blockchain? And why do you need a token? What is it that the token is going to let us do that we could not do before? That is the key thing. If I can do something without the token, and what you're offering me is slightly better, I'm not going to move. Because people are very risk averse in the domain of gains. If I tell you I have something better, you're not going to move. But if I'm going to tell you that if you have a loss, if you have a pain, and I tell you here is something better, people are more risk averse, risk seeking in the domain of losses, meaning that if you're in pain, if you have a loss, and I show you something new, then you will go and do it. Again, using Steemit as an example. Most of the users on Steemit today did not come from Reddit. Steemit is not a better Reddit. Steemit is a different Reddit. Those of us that are on Steemit, we went there because we had nothing to lose. We were not on Reddit, most of us. We wanted to start and experiment this new thing. And we liked it because we took the risk and we got the reward. But go and tell most users that are on Reddit today to move to Steemit, it's going to be a harder sell. So think about that. When I talk to startups, again, they focus on the token, but really anybody who is doing a new token today is a startup. And the most important thing is that you cannot short circuit the life of a startup. The startup laws, the startup natural laws of evolution are not changing with tokens. You still have to start small. You still have to prove that there's a market. You still have to get users. You still have to get your brand out there. So I try to evaluate this on 4 levels. One is the startup characteristics that have not changed and will not change. Whether you have a decentralized protocol, or whether you have an application, or whether you have a platform, or whatever you have on the blockchain, you still have to earn your way into getting into the market. Then if you're doing a sale, I want to know about the terms. I want to see how you're designing your sale. I want to see how you are committed to the transparency aspects, how you are going to tell us what you are doing very openly. And importantly, what is the business model? What is the token going to do that we could not do before? Or what is the innovation behind it? So in closing, in terms of framing and this is a very short way of talking about the economics of the tokens. I write about it a lot on my blog, and I will continue to write about it because this is a new field. Be very clear about your token functionality. And being clear does not mean having a 25-page white paper or a 40-page white paper. Being succinct, having 3 or 4 bullets and sticking to that is good enough. Work with an experienced lawyer. I'm not giving you any legal advice here. So the steps are: you design your token functionality, you are the startups, you're very creative, you think about 25 ways of using a token, and then you go talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer will help you to see the legalities, and they will help you to navigate whether this is a utility or a security, or whether you do a future sale for tokens or something else. Be transparent from day one about your token operations and the performance that you expect. Very important, because that's how you gain credibility in the marketplace. And don't be too greedy. The tokens are not for you. The tokens are for the network. This is about decentralization. And we know that for Steemit as well. I have not met any Steemit millionaires. I have met a lot of Steemit thousandaires. So many of us made a few thousands, which is not bad. So it's spread out. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong in spreading the wealth equally. We are facing challenging times ahead because change is coming. We like the change, but not everybody that we encounter is going to give us carte blanche to go and make the change happen. So there are strong winds ahead, but we have to keep pushing because this is the new way. So I'm going to leave you with this Chinese proverb, which is, when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. So we are all here building the windmills, obviously. Thank you very much.
I need a microphone.
Do we have time for some questions?
Yes, we have time for some questions. Definitely. We're just replacing batteries. I also need to replace my batteries. No? Not a joke? I need to replace my batteries.
Any questions?
It's not a joke.
You believed everything I said?
I was joking.
Okay.
Okay, any questions? I've got a microphone and then we can have a question. Yes, who has the question?
Wait for the microphone right
Yes. Okay. Oh, it's not a catch box. Here you
go. Where can I find your book to buy?
Amazon.
Do you have here?
Here, I didn't bring any copies. Last year, I gave away. I should have brought some, but if you can't find it, send me an email. I'll send you a book. No problem. Yes?
Yeah, Frederica here. You said that every token needs to have its purpose, its utility, and its value. What do you personally see as the most important one for Steem, and how do you explain it to people that don't understand it?
Yeah, the most important value for Steem is that it is showing us what can be done with the attention economy. And I like to make a contrast when I talk about Steem to Facebook. And if you think about it, the average person spends an hour on Facebook. And what do you get in return? Nothing. You give them your time, you give them your eyeballs, they aggregate that, they condense it, they aggregate it, they segment it, and they sell advertising, and they make the billions and the millions. With Steemit, we are getting rewarded for the attention and for the time that we are spending. So this is the new way of the future. And we're not going to be taken for granted anymore. It would be interesting to find out if somebody here is with Steemit is, what's the average number of minutes or hours per day that frequent users on Steemit spend? I don't know. Does anybody know? What's probably more than an hour. So I talk about the future of work. This is the future of work. In the past, we have been taken for granted. Again, if you think about it, we all have, I talk about this analogy, we all have 3 jobs. Did you know that? We all have 3 jobs. The first job is the job you have if you go to an office or if you're employed and you get a paycheck. That's your first job. The second job you have is the job at home, is doing the dishes, taking care, or cleaning the house, taking care of your relatives or your spouse, so that's your second job. And the third job is a job that was given to us by somebody online. When you go and book a ticket, book a hotel, and we are given lots of jobs, including Facebook, but we don't get paid for that. So the future of work is that third job that we were not getting paid for, now we're going to get paid for it. And the best way to experiment that is to go to Steemit. It's one of the few applications on the blockchain where, aside from going and buying cryptocurrency on a wallet, you go on Steemit and you're going to experience it. Thanks.
Yeah, hi. Okay, I have a question. It's actually 2. One, it's okay. I really think. I mean, I agree with what you said about how an ICO should look like and what it should. But let's talk a bit about what actually happens, which is basically none of that. Everybody's greedy. Everybody's this is a token. It doesn't do anything, but buy it anyway. So what I'm thinking is, what can what happens? How can we get there? How can we, as small fishes, let's say, we are interested in this, and we want this to get better because it's better for us, but it's better for the. What can we do, or how do you see it that we're ever going to get to some better conditions? That's one. And second question is, do you personally think that is there an ICO that did it really well in the last year, let's say, and do you have a good example? Something like that. Yeah.
Sure. If you hire enough lawyers, they will give you terms that will allow you to raise money. And there are some jurisdictions around the world that are a bit more progressive than others, like in Switzerland and Gibraltar, for example, and Singapore. There are easier ways, easier places to do these ICOs. But aside from that, the onus is on you. If you're the entrepreneur, do it the right way. Don't copy anybody. Not because some other ICO has raised $150 million that you have to do the same thing for no reason. Too much money is not good. Typically, in traditional VC terms, we don't give a lot of money to startups. We give them as much as they need for a couple of years. Because the less money you have, the better decisions you will make. And that's good discipline. The second question is about what's a good ICO. I mean, I keep going back to Ethereum. Ethereum was a perfect ICO. But people forget, they only raised $18 million. They only raised $18 million. Think about it. And if you raised $18 million today, people would think that you were a failure. And now Ethereum is close to $25 billion. So the 30 cents went to $300. Count that, 1,000 times more. If you start high, your multiple is going to be less. You start from high expectations, you really have to deliver. So do it reasonably, I think. Many of the ICOs that have happened in the last year are not operational yet. That is part of the problem right now. So the expectations are very high right now, and they're all overvalued. So that's kind of what I see right now. Steemit was another good example, but it wasn't really an ICO, it was a genesis. One more? Yep.
Okay, well,
great, thank you.
Give a round of applause for William, thank you.